there were few you can say periphery ideologies. Like I have talked about postmodernism, I have talked about post-truth, I have elaborated more on radical feminism and the fourth wave feminism in the last video. Okay, so if you get see, these are not in your even feminism is there, but post-truth and post-modernism is not in your syllabus, but we keep referring to these things. If not directly in ideology, somewhere else it will come. So it's always better to know these things, and more so when these are making news. The American presidential election is up. Okay, so again there will be talks about post-truth and what is happening in US, right? So let us keep a track of these things is what I want. I've explained them to you. If you watch it and if you come across anything that you do not understand, just let me know. Not to feel hesitated at all. Now today, there is this another module. Now these are the things I'm done with. I guess I'll just open the syllabus. Just a minute. Theories of state we are done, and democracy we are done. Political ideologies, Indian political thought, and Western political thought we are done. Right? I put it correctly, right? So now I'm starting with justice. Okay, not justice. I'm starting with rights. After rights, we'll come to justice, and then we will see the further things. So today I'm starting with rights. It says meanings and theories, different kinds of. Yes, we'll start with rights. So meaning and theories of rights. It is said different kinds of right and concept of human rights. So what are right? What is right actually? If I ask you what is right, then you would how do you define right? Can anyone? What is right? Anyone who can tell this? Legal protection against the state. See, right is to get one's due. Okay, right means to get one's due, to get what is due to a human, a citizen, an individual, a member of a group, an institution, anything it can be. To have a right is to be entitled to something. Yeah, you say that he or she is entitled to, he has a right or she has a right, which means he or she is entitled to certain things which others are not, by virtue of he or she having that particular right. Right to vote, right to speak, right to healthcare, right to education, anything it can be. So it is different from an obligation. Obligation, you understand, Thomas Hobbes has talked about obligation, political obligation. So obligation, Hobbes will point this out, that on any occasion you have a choice whether you or not to exercise your right. But when you are obliged to do certain things, don't have a choice, right? So the election duty is an obligation. You know this in India. If you are an employee with the state, maybe state or center, anyone, and you are asked to do election duty, you cannot boycott that. You cannot say no, but you can always say that it's my right. Right to vote is my right. I might not exercise my right to vote. Right to speak, right to defend. These are my rights. Right is kind of depending on how I want to exercise it. Obligation is a compulsion. Okay, that's the thing about right. It is very different from an obligation. Obligation may you don't have a choice. In rights you have a choice. So you have a right to vote, but maybe you are not entitled. You are not. Again, constitutional backing and all will be little technical, because there are certain rights which do not have constitutional backing. Okay, so rights and obligations are not the same, is what I want to tell you, that they are different. Hobbes has pointed towards obligation, and still they are very largely intermixed and connected. So whenever you decide to do what you kind of have a right to do, others have an obligation to let you do it. When you have a right and you want to exercise your right, then others have an obligation to let you exercise your rights. This is how these two things are interconnected. But then on what grounds a right is claimed to be justified is the next thing that I want to discuss. Before we start making flowcharts and writing few things, I want to just make some concepts clear to you, that on the basis of what, a right can be claimed to be justified. So what is that entitles me to, that entitles me and obligates you? This is my right, and so you must obligate that I shall life. Quite a philosophical answer. But the thing is, the right is conferred and the correlative obligation imposed by a law in a society. Okay, the right is conferred, and the correlative, that is, I have a right, you have an obligation, you have a right, I have an obligation. So the correlative of obligation and rights are imposed by laws in the society. Okay, there are certain laws which provide you and me with certain rights and corresponding obligations. Now, I and you both are members of the same society. We live in the same country and society. So as members, whose legal systems we follow, whose legal systems we are supposed to follow, and we both are subjected to those legal systems. We are following that, we are being governed and kind of regulated by the same legal system. So not all rights are not legal. That's why I tell you, when you were talking about constitution, then I said that not every right is having a constitutional backing. Like there are moral rights. Okay, moral rights, for example. So rights and their corresponding obligations are essentially social, not every time a legal. That is, it will have a constitutional backing. So one has them as a, you can say, member of a social group. We belong to this group. That's why we are having certain rights and obligations. Group or nation or society or anything you can call it. Rights need recognition from society, the most important thing, and from the state. So rights are claims which can be kind of justified on legal, moral, ethical, human, societal grounds. This is what is right. So first thing for a right to happen is the right must be justified. The right must be justified in the first place. If it's not justified, there is no claim to it. And I'm a member of some social group. Second, when I claim something as my right, then there must be something which is very necessary for me. What I claim as a right must be something which is vital, which is essential, which is prerequisite for me. And if I am to play my proper part as a member in the society, which means if I want a certain right, it must have uncanny bearing on myself, on my personality. In the absence of that right, I cannot perform at my utmost. I cannot perform at my best. Okay, this is what the concept of right is. So how do I claim that right? When I'm able to prove that in the absence of such rights, I'll not be what I am. Okay, my part or certain part of my personality will be sacrificed. Okay, when I'm not accorded proper rights. This is how you kind of express the concept of rights. And what I claim for me must be enough for me to play my part as an active and a fullest member of the society. And my claim to have a right is justified only if I'm able to, if I'm able to, and I'm willing to, respect the rights of others as well. I cannot have my rights in isolation. I mean, people who are similar situations, there are people who are similarly situated like I am. So all of them will have the same right. So my rights will not exist in isolation. I am having my rights only when I'm able to recognize the other's right, and they are inalienable part of my personality. In the absence of those rights, I'll not be the same Kanish Shekhar that I am. I'll not be able to perform to my optimum. If at all I'm trying to perform to my optimum in the absence of my rights, I won't be able to do that. This is what applies to each and every one of us. Did you understand this, all of you? Okay. So there are two parties, a right holder and a right observers. So rights have two faces depending on whether they are viewed from the perspective of the holder or from the perspective of the observer. Okay, so I'll tell you, a right is a permission to act from the point of view of a right holder, right? I am having my right, so I'll say that if I can do the particular act, so that will be a right to permission to act. And entitlement, you can call it, to act or to exist and to enjoy, to demand. I'll say that this is my right. But from the standpoint of a right observer, the rights usually impose a correlative duty or obligation, right? This duty can be to assist the person to achieve that right, to practice that right, successful execution of that particular right as an obligation if I am a right observer. And finally, to have a right entails certain responsibilities as well. There cannot be only rights and rights, there have to be responsibilities. This brings us the distinction between negative and positive rights. Until here, any question anyone has? I guess not. Can I proceed with my further writings and flowcharts? Oh, I'm speaking a bit fast. Okay, I'll slow down. Okay, I'll explain everything. Don't worry. I'll just summarize everything that I have just spoken. Okay, right holder and the one who is observing that right. So as a right holder, I am having a right. So what am I doing as a right observer? What I'm doing? I want to exercise. I have an entitlement. I am the right holder, so I have an cure. Cure can say. Fourth wave. Okay, that I'll do when I'm about to end today's class, just before 9 p.m. Okay, leave fourth wave feminism and cues for now. Focus on rights, one at a time. I'll 100% explain it to you. I am a right holder, so how do I exercise my right? Whether I am having certain rights and I am able to enjoy that right, I have a kind of entitlement towards that right. Now, what would a right observer do? Someone who is observing it, he or she will make sure that I can exercise my right. This is how it is, and his or her duty would be to assist me in exercising my rights. Understood? Now, remaining things will be clear when we'll write it. So let us now, you all have your pen and paper. So start now. If you have doubts, please let me know. But first we will note it down. So like I said, I'll jot down everything that we have just now discussed. So the idea is rights. Okay. I said it is one's due. Okay. To get what is due to someone as a human, citizen, or an individual. And to have a right, this simply means that one is entitled to do something or to have something done. Example, to vote, speak, etc. You can call it. Okay, rights are not obligation. You have a choice. Here, no choice. Okay, you have a right to vote, but you might not do that. But when you have an obligation, like you are supposed to perform the election duty in India, you cannot say no to it. Noted all of you? Can I rub it? Fair enough. So this was the concept of what exactly constitutes the right. Now, how rights are justified? Because right is conferred and there's this correlative obligation imposed by a law in society of which we are members. Okay, but as I told you, all rights are not legal, some are moral. Okay, therefore, the rights and correlative obligations are, you can write not necessarily, you can write essentially social. Rights are kind of claims, and these claims needs to be justified, legal, moral, ethical, and now, did you understand the correlative obligation? What that is? How many of you understood? What is a correlative obligation? Yes, and it's not like the right holder has an obligation. Are you understanding? Like if I have a right, then you have an obligation. If you have a right, I have an obligation. No questions here. Written all of you. Not every time law is obligated. At times there is a legal sanction to it. See, try to understand. That is what we have written. Not every time there is a legal obligation or a legal sanction. There are social sanctions, there are ethical sanctions. Homosexuality has got a legal sanction, but still it is to get a social sanction. Are you understanding it? Okay. So I'm saying that homosexuality has only got a legal sanction. It is still to get a social sanction. There are things which have social sanction, but there is no legal sanction. Correct. So these are the different sanctions, different obligations on a right, whether through society, whether through legal system, whether through moral obligations, anything it can be. All right, I can proceed now. Okay. So next thing that I'm saying, not marriage, maybe live-in. Live-in has a legal sanction, no social sanction. Not everywhere in India. Do not talk about Delhi or Hyderabad. There is more to India than our. Can anyone take out that gay rainbow colored flag, LGBT flag in the hinterlands of Bihar? I can challenge no. The homosexuality has been scrapped. Very fine. It was a Victorian morality. Should not be here. But then having social sanction and no legal sanction. Okay. What is the word for it? When a brother marries his sister? No, Shariat law is having neither moral nor legal sanction. What is the word for it? There's this word for it when siblings marry. No. Incest. Yes. Sorry. I forgot. Incest. So under Indian Penal Code, incest is not a crime. Do you know this? So intercaste marriage is largely accepted, maybe again in some hinterlands, but incest is nowhere accepted, right? So there cannot be a legal obligation, a legal repercussion. But what about societal repercussion? What about societal repercussion? The Constitution even does not mention other things. There are other legal provisions for it. Incest, there is no legal provision, but because this is such a so much discarded by society that people never thought that we need a law to stop it. Casteism, you can say, like intercaste marriages, some places legally yes, but some places society does not accept that. Interreligious marriages, right? Are you understanding why a corresponding right will not always have a corresponding legal sanction? It can have a societal sanction. Is it all right? All of you understood? Fine. Now you see, now there are two parties, right holder and yes, you can call stakeholders, no issue. Okay. Now, right holder, he has, for him, right is permission to act, entitlement to act. Correct. Now, from right observer, okay, what is right? Again, see how things differ. What is right? Correlative duty or on an obligation. Now, this duty can be both negative and positive. Right observer can have a correlative duty or an obligation towards a right, which is right for someone, and that can be both negative or positive. Negative would mean, yes, to refrain from interfering with this guy. A right holder's exercise of right. Now, what is positive one? To help the right holder. To assist in. Tell me what you don't understand. Anything in this flowchart that anyone is having a question on, feel free to ask. Refrain You are asking the meaning. Don't do anything which can cost the right holder. Don't interfere with him. See, Krishna, have you not attended previous classes? Negative means when there is something that you are not supposed to do. That is negative. That is negative. Anything else? Yes, 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 yes. 100% correct. That's why I wondered, because when you have done earlier classes, how come you are getting confused with negative and all? Understood? I'm rubbing it. All right. No, no issues, no issues. Always better to confirm. All of you have written. Now the next thing, negative and positive. Non-interference from society, right? Right to life, liberty, etc. will come here. These are the examples. The right to life prevents others from killing me, but it does not obligate them to do anything positive to assist me in living my life to the full. Let us write this. A beautiful example I just thought of. Let us please write it. Like right to life. Now this prevents others from killing me, right? This is a negative right. My right to life is a negative right for everyone, but it's not a positive right for them because it doesn't obligate them. Obligate them what? To do anything positive or favorable to help me in living my life to the full. I guess all of you understood it. This example was just good. There is no obligation. There is no positive one. Noted all of you? Now you see what is positive. Okay, right. No issues. It can be individuals, it can be state. That it will ask you to assist, impose obligations. Okay, did you understand? Yes, it can be a positive right. Yes, all of them. Right to legal aid also. Right to legal aid is a positive right. Wherever state is acting so that your life becomes better, that's a positive right. Wherever state is not acting so that your life is better, the state is not deciding what you will have in dinner after you finish this class. So that would be negative or positive on the part of state. Come on, tell me. Batao. Very good. Negative it would be. Correct? Yes, you are the state is the observer. You are the enjoyer of the right. So state will have negative obligation. Okay. Can I rub it now? Now you see, there is something called civil rights. Now this comes from, this is where it comes from. What was the aim? Equal citizenship in the state. So these are kind of basic legal rights a person must possess. Okay. So now no contemporary thinker of our times says that these rights can be denied to a person on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, or disability. Okay, understood all of you? No, it's for everyone. Civil rights are for everyone, not only for citizens. Okay, I'll tell this. Like you can say which right I can say freedom of speech. It does not depend on your citizenship. Freedom of press, okay, does not depend on the citizenship always. American media writes about Indian Prime Minister, Indian media writes about American President, right? So these are not now right to hold an office, to vote, to testify in a court. These will be political rights. These are very related actually. You see, until mid 20th century, they were different. Now, civil would include right to own property. Okay, political would include the right to vote. Instead of this, you can write a better one because this becomes a little complicated. You better write, now you understood? Because then things change. That's why this actually, the civil political distinction was, conceptually and morally unstable as it was used to sort citizens into different categories. It was part of an ideology that classified women as citizens who were entitled to certain rights but not to full panoply to which men were entitled actually. So that ideology broke down, the civil political distinction began to unravel, it began to disappear. And the idea that a certain segment of the adult citizenry could legitimately possess one bundle of rights while other segment would have yes, preferential voting will be an example, while the other segment would have an inferior bundle. It became very implausible with due course of time. So in the end, by the end of 20th century, like I have written here, the civil political distinction did not survive, and the principle that all citizens of a liberal democracy were entitled, like John Rawls would say, he has said this, fully adequate scheme of equal. So as I told you that civil and political are different. This came from those people who used to think, who used to classify women as citizens, but they are entitled to certain rights, not all the rights which men have. So this ideology broke down. you have studied feminism right now, the civil political distinction started to end. And the idea that a certain segment of adult citizenry can possess a certain set of rights, the other citizen will have an inferior set of rights, it became, very weird. So by the end of 20th century, the civil political distinction did not survive. It ended, and it was believed that all citizens of liberal democracy were entitled what John Rawls called a fully adequate sum of equal basic liberties. Write this everything, whatever I've written, quickly. Yeah. Can I rub it? Which Rawls are you saying? Same Rawls, John Rawls. We'll study about. We have this in our syllabus, Rawls' theory of justice. After this, I'll pick up justice. After we are done with rights, I'll come to justice. Okay. So this is how civil and political rights were kind of different, and that was only until the 20th century, middle of 20th century. Legal rights. What is legal as declared by the legal authorities? Yes, this is what it is. So their acts, the acts of legal authorities decide what is legal and what is illegal. Okay, are you understanding? Whatever the legal authorities say is legal right. Courts have kind of defined terms, what is legal, what is illegal in certain manners. Now, whether these moral nahi bhi ho sakta hai, they agree with, I have given you the examples. Morality and legality are very different, if you can remember that. Incest, homosexuality, right? Please note this. I can rub it. Now this, then again, a very important thing is moral rights. What are these? What are moral rights? So here I have told you that is sanctioned by the morality of that society. Okay, like you can say, I can explain it like, how do I describe it? Moral rights. Okay, see, until now we have discussed that claim and right. How do we interpret it? That there is another person has a duty to act in a certain way with respect to anything to which the another person has a right. Okay, this is how we did. No, but not all, not all goods or interests generate rights. It is only when there is a particularly important moral reason for protecting the good or interest. Okay, now Dworkin has talked about it. He says that individual rights are political trumps held by individuals. And he also adds that individuals have rights when, for some reason, a collective goal is not a sufficient justification for denying them what they wish. Okay, so the idea has also, Raz has talked about it, that the right exists if an aspect of a single person well-being is a sufficient reason for holding some other person to be under a duty. So political theories differ in these things. So when I just talk about moral rights, if I talk about these things, so something which is morally upheld, okay, morally upheld by society, that would be moral right. So we can which one? Yeah, taking care. Very good. Taking care of parents in old age and not sending them to old age homes. It actually comes from, it's a French term actually. Droit moral. Moral rights means droit moral in French. This is where it comes from. Okay, understood? Yes, caste panchayats can be moral rights, but they will not have legal sanctions. Yes. Understanding? It's kind of human consciousness, we can say. Correct. You can say that this is based on human consciousness, supported by morality, human sense of goodness, and you can say public opinion, not backed by law. And you can write here good conduct, courtesy, moral behavior. Okay, understood all of you? What are moral rights? Please let me know if you have written it. Can I rub it now? Oh, one more thing you can write. Rights on the basis of source. Fundamental rights, God. This is the right, this is the source. Nature, fundamental rights, constitution, legal rights, state, moral right, society, custom, traditions. Is it all right? Please note it down. I hope you will agree to this classification of rights based on the source. Correct? All of you have noted? Good. No, we don't have divine rights in India right now. Nowhere we have divine rights. Can be only in a theological state. Okay. Even for Ram Mandir, you have the Supreme Court not favoring, giving decision. Where is the divine right? Do you know that the Ram Janambhoomi movement, there were three parties to it? The Sunni Waqf vote, the Ram Janambhoomi Nyas, and the third one, you know who was it? Ram Lala Virajman, Lord Ram himself. Yes. Natural rights are like, okay, see, natural rights we are about to cover right now. Now, John Locke has talked about it. It's actually Hobbes has also talked about natural rights. The state of nature that he has talked about, the condition of human life in the absence of any organized political authority and government, the natural conditions of man. And then it is very different from the artificial condition under a government. So that is natural kind of thing. So John Locke will say that state of nature is a condition of human being in the absence of government. Okay, we are to talk about it. We have not discussed it, natural rights. Okay, all of you. I guess you have written it. Yes. Also in context of tribals, you can say. Now you see, I'm coming to your what question you have asked, the natural rights. This is oldest kind of, and all this American Declaration of Independence. Again, your world history will come very handy here. This is given in your syllabus. This French Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizens. These two are kind of based on idea of natural rights. So this would say, American Declaration would say that they are natural rights are self-evident truths. They would say every person has right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. These things are given to him by God. These are self-evident truths as the American Declaration of Independence declares it to be. You don't need anything to prove it. These are already there. Okay, understood? Can I rub this? Okay, fine. Civilized India before British? How? No, they were not very civilized things in India at that time. Yes, of course, there were rich cultures and customs have always existed in India, but there were some degradation in the practice at that time by the end of medieval century. So that will not adequately fit here. Now, what is this? Basis of source means where is basis of source? Where are they coming from? Okay, the previous one. Where are they coming from? Divine rights are coming from God. Natural light is coming from nature. Species of source means where are they originating from? Understood? Galaxy A6, sorry, A6 plus. Okay, Sam. Sam, you understood it? Okay. Now, yes, how come natural light believe in God? Because earlier, no, why not? Because now there will be presidential elections, there will be result. You see the swearing in of the new president. Or for that matter, you can see the previous swearing in ceremony of President Trump. Bible was there. Yes, he swears on Bible. It is a display of Christianity because they believe in God. Nothing wrong in that, right? So natural rights are God-given rights which are inalienable. Yes, they can proclaim to be secular. Nothing wrong in that. See, every country, can you take Christianity away from Americans or Europeans? Can you take Islam away from Saudi or Iran? Can you take Hinduism away from India and say that no, India is not Hindu? Come on, it does not mean that secular means that there will not be a theological law. If Bible is used, no, India has having its own. Modi went to Ram Janambhoomi, the worship there also people were having bowel movements. What to do about that? Leave them. The thing is, American secular credentials can be questioned if and only if the American courts start delivering justice on what is written in Bible, or if Mr. Trump starts framing his policies as per the dictats of Bibles. Okay, that what they call it, testament. Okay, he has a right to follow his religion or not. Yeah. Testament, right? Understood, all of you? So they believe, natural right theorists believe that God has given some inalienable rights to an individual, and they very aptly have remarked, say, all the I sincerely believe that intuition, reason, rationality, how beautifully they have summed it up, right? How beautifully they have summed it up. It is the intuition, the reason, the rationality, and not any institution, the source of natural rights. Natural rights are fundamental to human existence. So you see, all fundamental rights are natural rights. All natural rights are. Have you solved that? What do you call tautology? No, that is syllogism. In your society, you have to do that. This is true. This is false. Okay. All cat are dog. All dog are rat. Syllogism. This you noted down somewhere, and this also. Everything you noted down. Noted. So these are the things that we have to remember. Now, apart from that, you can also write, see, natural rights have, because God they are quoting, divine, God given. And that is why natural rights are very close to divine rights. Congruent I have written. Okay. Understood? Because they are saying all these things. That is what the divine right used to say. The king has been sent by God. Here they are saying man has inalienable right given by God. God is there. God is given different things. God is the source of different rights in divine right and natural rights. Is it all right? All of you have understood? Which second line? The second line. See, natural rights. Natural rights are inalienable. Okay, they are inalienable, which means I'm just saying that God was also part of divine right theory, where he has given certain rights to the king. Now, in natural right theory, state society has evolved. King's monarchy has ended. America is now a democratic country. The civil war has ended. The imperialism in America has ended. So they are saying we need to do good to our people, and they will give them some natural rights because these things are inalienable. A man cannot survive, a human being cannot survive in the absence of natural rights. These are given by God. God has created us beautiful creatures, so he wants his creature to do good. So state will enshrine, state will protect the natural rights because they are having divine sanctions. Understood? All of you have understood? No questions to anyone? So I'm ending it here.